Hi guys, Sandy here. Today I want to talk to everyone who is struggling to cope with their job. Everyone who feels no motivation, no enthusiasm, no fulfillment, and most importantly, no hope of things ever getting better. I have been there and done that more times than I care to remember, and I still remember how it felt, to wake up every morning and for a second you don't quite realize what's going on, and then dread washes over you as your reality sinks in. You're about to get up, get dressed, and go to work. I also remember the Sunday evenings as the sun came down and the next day grew nearer and nearer, as I was organizing things for the next day and felt this hole in my stomach and this way in my chest to know that in a couple of hours I would be back at work and this was my life. And it's never really just about one thing, is it? It's never just about the work or about the colleagues or the boss. Hating a job is a full package, like a carefully woven web of factors that come together to drown us, to make us feel small and powerless. The micromanaging abusive boss, the low pay, the selfish coworkers, the extra hours, the unachievable goals and demands, they all band together to bring us down. Hopeless, aimless, and dispirited. That's how 1 in 3 US workers gets through the day, according to a Perceptex report. Every day we read and hear about the Great Resignation, about how millions of people are quitting their jobs to create a better life for themselves. And I can only imagine that for those people who aren't quitting, which is the great majority by the way, the ones that are overworked and underappreciated after all the work from the people who quit that was dumped on them, hearing about millions of workers quitting, watching their colleagues walk off must be a mix of a light at the end of the tunnel with an even worse feeling of helplessness and weakness, that pestering question in their heads: if everyone is doing it, why can't I? Well, I talk about all of this in my Working Dead videos, about how the majority of the people who stay don't do it because they love what they do, but because they don't believe they will ever be able to get something better, or because they are feeling completely empty and just exhausted and don't feel like they would be able to start something new, particularly when all of that means losing that paid time off they've collected in their current jobs. Some stay because they're working so hard they wouldn't have the time to search for a new job, and quitting to look for a job means getting no pay for longer than they can handle. The reasons are plenty and all very valid, and I get it, I really, really do. And then there's the social conformity overall, the way we were brought up to believe that having a job is a gift, something to be treasured and something you hang on to no matter what. You're lucky if you have a job is something I heard so many times over the years, said by my bosses, by my parents, even by my friends at times, or things like, you don't have to like it, it's why it's called work. It makes my skin crawl, quite honestly. But here's why this Great Resignation, this big quit is such a big, life-changing thing, why it's the biggest opportunity you will ever have of standing up for yourself and prioritizing your well-being. Because it's not about the job, it's about redefining one's sense of self. So many people make this about trading up or securing a better lifestyle for yourself, but this is so much more. It's about redefining who you are. For generations and generations, people define themselves through their work, right? They believed that their value was intimately connected to their professional success and that their personal success depended on how many ladders they went up in their careers. And let's not forget, hard workers are good people, right? And a good employee is someone who lives for work, works overtime, hustles, grinds, give it their all for the company. No wonder millennials are seen as lazy with all that talk about a work-life balance, right? Now, before we go on, just a quick reminder to tap that like button if you're enjoying this video, of course, to let YouTube and myself know. I would really appreciate it. Well, if the pandemic has taught us anything, it is how much we have been wasting our lives slaving away for someone else's profit. Because let's face it, for the big majority of workers, what they give is way more than what they get in return from their employers, isn't it? Not only that, but it also showed us how much time we're wasting working and commuting, time we will never get back. And for what? According to federal data, employers in the private sector have raised hourly pay by 5% in the past year. But the same data also shows that the wage growth has been higher for those who switched jobs than the ones who remained at the same job. 5.8% versus 4.7% to be more precise, which means employers aren't really keen to renegotiate working conditions for current employers, but are willing to raise the bar to get new workers. It also means that if you want to get a better raise, you need to quit your job. How does that make sense? Let's say it like it is. Devotion to your work is often a one-sided romance, and when jobs don't love you back, it's time to rethink things. The Great Resignation is about redefining yourself as a person instead of a worker, to remove your professional status out of your identity. And any job which doesn't allow you to do it is a job you need to walk away from. You know, at my worst job, my boss demanded that we Zoomed, well, it wasn't really a Zoom at the time, at 8 o'clock at night every evening because he was halfway across the world. He was never on time and sometimes he forgot to do it and didn't think there was anything wrong with that. In the end, I wasn't ashamed I quit and became unemployed for the 6 months after that. I was ashamed I did it for as long as I did. The Great Resignation is still happening, you know, the number of resignations is still really high, but so are the number of job openings for January, coming up to almost 11.3 million, which is just shy of December's record, even though employers hired 6.5 million people during that period. This is your chance. This is the opportunity you need to take your life back. It's time what you do stops interfering with who you are. It's time your job stops making you miserable, exhausted, and depressed. It's time you put yourself above your job. Think about that. And leave me a comment letting me know your opinion. I would love to hear from you. Also, before you go, watch this video about the 4-hour workday and how the companies who are trying it right now are seeing really surprising results. I did it for long as opportunities for completely empty.